You're welcome to this channel. I'm speaking today on critical considerations in passing the CISA and other Isaca certification exams. My name is Akinwale, and I'm a certified information system auditor. I'm also a CISA trainer, and I'll be sharing with you what you need to focus on to be able to pass the CISA certification exam. And a lot of the thing I'm going to be mentioning here is also relevant for other Isaca certification like CISM, CRISC, CGEIT, and the rest of them. Okay, so number one consideration is that I attend lectures in a reputable training organization. Very important. A lot of people feel that yes, they can just pick the CISA material and read on their own. All right. So what I've seen practically, in the field, all right, is that it actually helps, all right, to be trained by seasoned lecturers, all right, who are both through written the exam and pass it, have had some quite industrial experience. So that will go a long way. That will go a long way. All right. And when I say reputable, I mean that, at least a training organization with a track record of producing uh, successful candidates. All right. I remember when I was writing my own exam. All right. I met a guy in the examination, or I was telling me that this is the second time he was writing the exam, and that everybody failed in the training center he attended. So everybody can fail now. So that was a problem there. That was a problem there. So you have to you have to carefully choose the training organization that you will attend. Okay, another point is to study the CISA review manual. All right, as much as possible. All right, use CISA review manual. Actually, for me, I read the CISA review manual end to end, all right, like 3 times. All right, that was what was recommended for us that time when we were preparing for the exam. So I took that seriously and made sure before I wrote the exam, I've read it through 3 times. All right. So try and you may not exactly do that. All right. Okay. But if you have the time and the motivation, why not? You can even do more than that. Okay. Study the CISA questions and answers database. So part of the training resources is the question and answer database, which is very important. Which is very important. This you need to be able to understand the psychology of the examiner. All right, that is very important. So you may know the concept, all right, you may have the experience, but you need to get into the mindset of the examiners of the Isaca exams. All right. So you're able to know how the questions are set, how the final answers are determined. All right. So this is very important. All right. Like also when I was writing, I actually reviewed hundreds, as in hundreds of practice questions, hundreds of past practice questions. Very, very important. All right. I'm not saying you should cram those questions. So people go to the extent of cramming. No, you don't have to. All you need to do is to master the concepts and the approach. So which of the following is the first? Which of the following is the greatest? Which of the following is the best? Which of the following is a major? So you need to be able to familiarize yourself with the way they set their questions and the way they determine the final answer. All right. And it's very important that you score at least 85% in your questions and answer practice sessions. So, of course, you have practice sessions. If you are not scoring up to 85%, all right, under test conditions, it's might be debatable how that person will pass that exam. All right. Generally, the exam is marked on a weight using a weight system, all right, which is known to Isaca. All right, so since this is the weight assigned to each of the exam question will not be made known to you. All right, So we've been told that it's always good to aim for, to score 70% in the life exam, 70% of the questions that will be attempted. So if you can score 70% of the questions that will be set, not attempted, all right. If you can pass, get up to 70% of the questions that will be set for you correctly, definitely you are going to pass. All right, but of course, exam conditions are tense. So in a test environment which is more relaxed, you'll be looking forward for you to be scoring 85%. So for every 10 question you are writing, if you are scoring 80, 90, 100, 80, 90, 100, all right, percent, all right, it shows that your level of readiness. It worked for me. It worked for me. So when I was preparing, I was scoring consistently, all right, almost 100%. The first test I wrote, I will never forget. I actually did. I scored 36%. All right, 36%. The first test I ever tried, practice exam I ever tried, scored 36%. All right, but as I was attending lectures, I was reading, studying, and the rest. All right, it started rising. So it was my KPI, key performance indicator. So when I started scoring 100, 90, 95, I knew I was good to go. And actually, I was not disappointed in the exam. It was quite easy for me, all right, because I was ready. All right. I will also advise you to join a local chapter. All right. So Isaca has local chapters all over the world. All right. So it is good that you are involved in the local chapter. All right. Most of the local chapters meet at least once a month. And they also ensure that in those meetings, they have a presenter that will talk on a particular topic. That is where I'm going for, for a CISA candidate or CISM candidate. It is so these topics that you've been learning from academic point of view in your CISA class or CISM class, somebody that is a practitioner is going to make present on it. All right, using real life use cases. So that's what I like about, all right, those meetings, especially for people that are trying to break into IS audits, all right, or break into IT security and so on. So you need to get involved in the local chapter. Then, as much as possible, attend the IS audit related conferences. All right, attend IS audit related conferences. Very, very important. All right. So local ones, international one. And luckily now we have a lot of webinars out there. So you don't even need to leave the comfort of your house for you to attend a webinar, a conference. All right. So you have many reputable organizations outside there that are doing conferences, that are doing webinars, that are doing seminars. As much as possible, you need to involve yourself. You need to learn, all right, from the experts. This will really help. Isaca has local conferences, you have global conferences. All right, you have other organizations, PCB and the rest of them. All right, they do conferences mostly related to IT, information security, audit, and so on. So why not? Okay, why not? Why not? Why not? So as much as possible, attend these IS audit related conferences. Then again, you need to study tech articles. All right, when I was preparing for my CISA exam, I think I must have read perhaps, at least 100 articles. All right, perhaps even more. Okay, perhaps even more. So, tech articles, I discovered that most people writing CISA are not from tech background. That's what I discovered. Of course, a lot of people from tech backgrounds are writing CISA, but a very significant percentage are coming from business backgrounds, especially accountants. All right. So most of the things they're talking about is really new. All right, to a lot of CISA and CISM candidates. So you need to brace up. All right, you need to brace up. When I was preparing, Wikipedia was my friend. All right, I use Wikipedia a lot. Use Wikipedia a lot. I can spend 3 hours, all right, on a topic. And the good thing about Wikipedia is that it has hyperlinks here and there, so you can go to Wikipedia for a topic, and you see on that page you see like 10 hyperlinks of another topic. So one thing leads to the other, one thing leads to the other, and you keep on learning. All right. So study tech articles as much as possible. All right. I also want to say you need to pick an area of specialization in IT and start developing yourself, all right, in that particular area. So I personally I encourage you that another training program should be running on the ground. All right, while you are doing your CISA training and preparation, series training and preparation, all right, another training needs to be going on, especially if you are not from a tech background. So this is especially for non-tech people that are writing these Isaca certifications. You need to register for a course, all right, either you are doing it formally or you're on YouTube, Coursera, and the rest of these learning platform. You need to learn a tech skill. All right, it will help. I'm telling you, believe me, it's going to help. All right, so you need a tech skill. Either in software development, either in networking, either in database management, cloud computing, and so on. All right. So that is what it's CISA. It says Certified Information System Audit. All right. So for you to, I used to tell people like that when ICANN, ACC, and the rest of these auditing organizations, auditing uh, regulatory supervisory body, the RSBs, all right, when they want to train an auditor, they don't start training the financial auditor specifically. They don't start training financial auditor starting with audit. Have you noticed? Those of us that are chartered accountants that are listening to this video, all right, ICANN or ACC does not, they don't start teaching you, all right, audit, even though they are trying to produce a financial auditor. What do they start with? They start training you, finance and accounting. All right, because if you don't understand finance and accounting, how will you understand financial audit? You see, because you need knowledge of accounting to be able to audit. So they will be emphasizing the standard, IS1, IS2, so like that, IFRS 1, 2, and so on. Because if you don't understand those those accounting standards, there's no way you can audit. So in the same way, when somebody that does not have a tech background, all right, and you now want to jump, all right, from BSc accounting or BSc business administration, all right, or any other field which is non-tech. You now want to jump right from that non-tech background and start auditing technology. For me, for me, there will be issues. That is what I can see. There will be issues. All right. So while you are doing your CISA, CISM, CRISC certification, you need to get your hands dirty. That's just the truth. You need to get your hands dirty in tech. All right. So there must be a side also, there must be a side learning. All right, while you are doing CISA, all right, maybe on a Saturday, on a Sunday, then in the weekday, maybe like 2 days, 2 hours a day, you are also building your capacity in one area of tech. That is, please, if you take this, you will not regret it. All right, you will not regret it. So you need to pick. So while you are doing your CISA training, and you are doing your CISM series training, you need to pick a tech specialization by the side, which you are also which you are also developing capacity in. It will really, when you combine that with your CISA, with your series and CISM, all right, you are good to go, both for the exam, all right, for both for the exam and for even life audit. And when you finally get a job as an IS auditor or as a security officer or manager. All right. I also want to advise that you join online discussion groups. All right. There are so many of them now. Thank God, we have so many WhatsApp groups. We have so many groups on Facebook. We have so many groups. Okay, on also all over the social media. All right, LinkedIn, there's so many Isaca related groups. Then Isaca also have their own group. They call it Isaca Engage. Isaca Engage. So if you check Isaca, if you log into isaca.org, all right, you search for Engage. You will see the online community there as Isaca Engage online community. So they have groups for people that want to write CISA. I think they call it CISA exam prep. They have for CISM exam prep. They have audit and assurance, all right, group. So you can join all these groups and interact with professionals all over the world who probably know more than you do. So you can rub knowledge, you can rub minds together and learn from them. All right. So the online, the Asaka Engage is also another very important consideration when you are writing uh, these ISACA certifications. They also want to mention you need to learn ISO standards. All right. Of course, these are courses on their own. So 27,001, you have the implementer course, which is about 5 days. You have lead auditor course, which is another 5 days. 22301 business continuity, lead implementer, lead auditor. These are five days courses. ISO 20,000 part one. That is IT service management. It's another 5 days course. Lead implementer, lead auditor, 5 days course. All right. ISO 31,000 is standard of risk management. All right. These are specialized courses on their own. So I'm not saying you have to go and attend all the courses, all right, lead implementer, lead before you can write the exam. But man, you need to have an overview of these standards. It will help when you get to the exam or you remember what I said. All right. So if you look at it, anybody, because what we do in audits, we have what we call audit criteria. So a lot of time we refer back to these standards. All right. So you want to audit access control, you go to ISO 27001. All right, because that is where you have the controls, the Annex A, the next 7 controls that the auditor need to refer to. So you see access control there and the recommendations of the standard. You want to audit business continuity, you look at 2301 and see what 2301 says about business continuity. You want to audit IT service management in an organization. All right, if you know as 20,000 part one as an auditor, it will help. 9,001 is quality management system, which is related to all the standard. All right, because the idea is that we want to meet a certain level of best practice. 31,000 risk management. So the more you know about these international standards, all right, the more you are positioned to pass the CISA exam. That is the truth. All right. There are also IT frameworks very similar to standards. All right, like COSO ERM framework. You should know what COSO ERM framework is all about. All right, you should know about KUBI 2019. All right, which was developed by Isaca also. You should know about IT, which is UK certification. All right, so IT result can be mapped as 20,000. All right, so you are supposed to have knowledge of these IT frameworks. So if you could just take note of all these key points I've just mentioned, I'm sure that all right, you are good to write and pass the CISA CISM series CGEIT certification even at first attempt. All right, so I want to mention in this session key topics in CISA Domain 1, specifically for CISA Domain 1 that I've noticed, all right, are often tested. So you can't write CISA Domain 1 without having knowledge of audit planning, all right, audit plan. So nobody rushes to any audit. Okay, so the audit must be planned. We need to know the audit objective, we need to know the audit scope, we need to know the organization we are auditing. So context of the organization we are auditing must be documented. All right. You need to be able to characterize the area you are auditing. That way, you know the resources required, you will know the areas of highest risk, you will know the competence required, the auditors that you will send for the audit, you will know the audit procedures that you are going to use, all right, and so on. You will know the timeline for the audit. All this will be achieved through audit planning. All right, you're supposed to have knowledge of ISACA, IS audit and assurance standards. All right. So we have general standards, we have performance standards, we have reporting standards. Very interesting. If you look at www.isaca.org/ITAF, All right, you will see this the standard. I think it's a free resource. All right, that have been developed by Isaca. It's a free resource that have been developed by Isaca. So you can check it. All those the standard on audit charter, organizational independence, professional independence. So very interesting requirements. I think about 16 of them or so. All right, which are standards that are not the IS auditor must comply with. I call them a summary of domain one. All right, I call them a summary of domain one. This IT assurance framework, everything that is there. If you have a very sound knowledge of the IT assurance framework, I'm almost sure you are good to go to pass the exam. All right. They of course are supposed to have knowledge of risk assessment. There is always questions focusing on the auditor on understanding that what really matters the most is the areas of highest risk. Areas of highest risk. That is very common in most CISA question. This is an exam on domain one. So the auditor is supposed to know you can't audit everything. You don't have the time, you don't have the resources. So you need to be able to focus on the areas of highest risk. You're supposed to have knowledge of audit risk. All right. The risk that an auditor will make a wrong opinion, a wrong conclusion. All right. You need to know the elements of audit risk, the inherent risk, the control risk, and the detection risk. You need to know the types of controls which we use to respond to risk. All right, preventive controls, all right, and their subsets, the detective controls and their subsets, the corrective controls and their subsets. You need to be able to have knowledge of sampling. Sampling is used because time limitation and resource limitation. You need to know the method of sampling. You need to know attribute sampling. You need to know variable sampling. All right, and when they are used, attribute sampling are used for compliance testing, variable sampling is used for substantive testing. You need to know evidence collection techniques, basically. All right, so how do we collect evidence, right, in an audit? All right, so one of them is using CATs, computer assisted audit tools. All right, you can do observation. All right, you can visit, you can interview, you can share questionnaire, you can do technical verifications and so on. Then lastly, control self-assessment, all right, which is basically self-audit when line managers are in charge of auditing. All right. So basically, then of course, reporting. At the end of the day, you have to report, all right, to the relevant stakeholders of the findings, key significant findings in the audit. So if you have a very sound knowledge of all these topics in domain one, I believe you are good to go. All right, key topics in domain two, CISA that you should be aware of, governance of enterprise IT, which means the board of directors, all right, is taking responsibility for IT in the organization, formerly called IT governance. And the emphasis here is alignment of IT with the business. Simple. Information security governance, the board of directors is directing and controlling information security governance. They are not leaving it to the specialists. All right. So strategic direction for information security governance must come from the board. Essentially, that's what it's saying. Enterprise architecture is also very important for domain two. So enterprise architecture is basically about documenting an organization's investment in IT. All right. So you have so many frameworks, Zachman, SAPSA, all right, TUGAF, basically. So, and a CISA candidate is supposed to have a very sound knowledge of enterprise architecture, supposed to have very sound knowledge of IS strategy, all right, which is basically so we know the business strategy. Now, how do we use information system to drive that to achieve our business strategy? That is often tested. So you can't be talking about IS strategy when you have not consulted the business strategy. All right, then you're supposed to know IT-related frameworks. I've talked about them earlier. All right, so the ISO 27001, 22301, 20000, all right, ISO 9001, frameworks, IT bits, all right, ERM framework, also ERM framework. All those things are very relevant for CISA domain too. Also, IT policies and procedures. All right, you're supposed to know IT policies must be documented, must be approved, must be communicated, must be reviewed. All right, at planned intervals. Procedures can change often, but policies most of the time are very stable. You're supposed to have that knowledge. All right. IT organizational structure, you're supposed to know various departments, various functions that you can find in a typical IT department, and the functions that cannot be combined. All right, segregation of duties. All right, you need to have that knowledge. IT governing committees like IS strategy committee, like IS steering committee, you should be able to know. IS strategy committee is a member, is a committee of the board of directors focusing on IS strategy, whereas IS steering committee is a committee of line managers focusing on implementation of the IS strategy, and they provide feedback to the board on the effectiveness of the IS strategy. All right. So you should not have that knowledge. You should have knowledge of enterprise risk management. All right. So IS 31,000 is very relevant. So you should know that risk assessment is risk assessment is basically consists of risk identification, risk analysis, and risk evaluation. All right. So once we are past the risk evaluation stage, then we move to risk treatment. You should be familiar with the concept of inherent risk. All right. Familiar with the concept of residual risk, that is the risk remaining after the risk has been treated. You should be familiar with the risk treatment options. All right. Acceptance, avoidance, which other one? Transfer. And so you have acceptance, which means you will do nothing about the risk. You are okay. You have transfer, which means you push it to an insurance company or an associate company. Right? You have risk. You have risk modification or risk mitigation, which means you apply controls. You have risk avoidance, which means you are going to stop the process that is generating the risk. You're supposed to have that knowledge. Capability maturity model integration is used for gap analysis to know where we are and where we're supposed to be. So you need to be able to know that is the primary reason we use capability maturity model. We want to know where the organizations is in terms of maturity. I want to know where they're supposed to be so that they can close the gap. All right. HR management is also very important. Things like background screening, very important for our staff. All right. Things like avoiding cross training, also very, very important when it comes to HR. Compulsory vacation, mandatory vacation to prevent fraud. All right. So we need to know that outsourcing. All right. Outsourcing basically is approach in CISA from the concept of risk management. All right. So you need to know outsourcing is inevitable these days. So what are the risk management options for an organization to manage the risk outsourcing will generate? For example, now right to audit clause. All right. Using capability maturity model to choose your vendor. All right. Things like software escrow, when you are buying a software and you want to manage the risk of the supplier, going out of business. All those risk management, associated risk management options, that is what is tested here, the performance of optimization. So your plan do check act, your IT balance scorecard, all right, as so other methodology that is used to improve and to ensure continual improvement of our processes. So all these are key topics that a CISA candidate should be familiar with in domain 2. Then domain 3, all right, very important, project management, project program management, all right. So what is a project? Collection of activities with defined objective, with a start date and an end date. What's a program? All right, collection of projects with similar objectives, with similar schedules, with similar timeline. All right, which can be best managed, collectively. That's a program. All right, what's a portfolio? All right, collection of all the projects going on in an organization. So you're supposed to be able to know that, how to know project scheduling methods. All right, things like Gantt charts, CPM, critical path methodology, PETS, program evaluation review technique. So you're supposed to have that knowledge Managing time, managing funds. All right, methodology like EVA, M value analysis. All right, very relevant. All right, in project and program management. So basically, the skills. So PMBOK is very relevant. A project management body of knowledge. You can take time and go through PMBOK to have a very sound knowledge of project management needed for software development. All right, software size estimation is also a very interesting topic that keep on appearing. All right, in most CISA questions. All right, so you need to be able to know source line of code. All right, function point analysis and other methods that are used to determine software size. All right, software development methodologies. This is where, all right, most of the questions are going to come from. All right, so waterfall model, the 6 stages of waterfall model, you should be familiar with that. All right, the verification and validation model, also called V model, as you know, as an improvement. All right, on waterfall model. All right, other methodologies like agile or agile methodology, agile methodology, and other iterative methodology, basically. All right. So you're supposed to be familiar with all that, all those software development methodology and their intricacies. All right. For example, now waterfall model. What is the challenge waterfall model? There must be stable environment. Or if the environment is always changing, that means you're going to have scope creep. You're going to have scope creep. Why do we use V model? All right, basically to fast track the testing. All right, it's instead of testing at later stages. All right, it helps you to fast track the testing of the software as early as possible. That's why we use the V model. All right, what are the challenges with iterative model like agile? All right, and the rest of them. All right, inadequate testing because of a lot of changes. So all these iterative methodologies, there is a lot of change going on. All right. So for example, in Agile Manifesto says no change is welcome. It's all about the customer. Now, unless documentation is done because of the frequent changes. These are concerns for an IS auditor. All right, when you are using when agile methodology and other iterative methodologies are being used. Then, of course, you're supposed to have knowledge of application controls. So input controls, processing controls, output controls. All right, a very good CISA certification candidate should have that knowledge. You should know the relevant control. So you don't just buy a software. There must be, application control consideration. And you cannot start auditing application control when you don't understand what they are using that software for. So you need to understand the business context before you even start auditing application controls. Then lastly, of course, emphasis on testing, different testing that are done, alpha tests, beta tests, pilot tests, regression testings, all right? Um, Regression testing, security testing, and so on. All right. So all those different type of tests, okay, will also be required for you to know them in the exam. Okay. Domain 4, very interesting. What are the key topics you should be familiar? Business resilience. All right. So ISO 22301, business continuity management system, is very relevant here. Okay, so you need to know, all right, what it takes to keep an organization running regardless of disaster. All right, so business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan, business impact analysis, all right, exercise and tests and those. So those knowledge, recovery point objective, recovery time objective, and how they apply to business resilience. You should have that knowledge. Knowledge of service level management, basically, is very key. It keeps popping up. So SLA requirements comes from the stakeholders. We should know that emphasis from ISO 20000 and ISO 9001. So most of the time, the requirements for the service is coming from regulators, it's coming from customers. All right. Sometimes it comes internally too because there may be internal expectations. So all those SLA should be recorded and managed. All right, to ensure that the customers are satisfied at the end of the day. USB security, very important. USB security is a very key topic. All right, RFID security. all right, managing privacy challenges that can arise because of RFID. Hardware maintenance, especially focus on preventive hardware maintenance, should be known. IT asset management should also be known. Managing an asset throughout its life cycle. All right, end user computing. What are the risks? All right, in end user computing. All right, so the end users most of the time have not gone through, all right, structured programming training. So because of that, inadequate testing, poor controls. So we need to have controls around that. Software licensing also a key topic in Domain 4 which can be tested. So controls that an organization should implement to ensure that people are not using fake or unapproved software in the organization. Very, very key. Source code management is also a hot topic in Domain 4, especially the use of version change control, version change control software. All right, that is also very important to manage. All right, change management in source code. All right. Incident management is also very, very, very serious topic. All right, from incident detection to incident logging to incident assessment, incident resolution, incident closing, and learning from incidents. So ISO 27035 is very relevant for incident management. So you can check that out. Capacity management is also very important. So if you are familiar with ISO 20000, is there, the capacity management is there in clause 8. 27,001 to capacity management is there in Annex A control. So you can see why I said the knowledge of ISO can help you master CISA and other Isaca certification. So according to 20,000, demand management is related to capacity management. So an organization should be able to predict, all right, the demand for its services. And once you can predict the demand for your services, you need to be ready with the capacity in terms of people, in terms of storage, in terms of bandwidth, in terms of licenses, and so on. That's what capacity management is talking about. So you need to, if you can automate that, there's a tool you can actually use for your threshold management and detection, alerts, and the rest. Wonderful. Network management tools are also, tested there. So the use of SIM, Security Information Event Monitoring tool, will also help us to be able to manage our network. We need to know what is going on our network per time. Patch management is also very important. Patches should be updated as soon as possible. And of course, you have to test the patches in the test environment before you try it in the live environment. All right, release management, so different type of release, major release, minor release, emergency release. You should be familiar with that, especially emergency release and the controls around it. Then finally, database management. So concept like normalization, all right, you should be familiar with concept of normalization, concept of denormalization, all right, concept of foreign key, primary key, referential integrity. These are all topics in CISA. All right, so that is Domain 4. I'm very sure if you have knowledge about everything I listed there, you are good to go. Then finally, key topics in Domain 5. Information security management framework. So a very good auditor should be able to audit the information security management setup in an organization. And the best recommendation for this is ISO 27001. So please, if you don't have a copy of ISO 27001, get it when you get to this Domain 5. Look at the Annex A, of the 27,001. It listed 97 controls that are very relevant for information security. All right, starting from organizational controls to people controls to physical controls to technology controls and organization should implement for information security. So an auditor should have that knowledge. All right, physical access and environmental controls. All right, an auditor too should be able to have the knowledge to check the physical and environmental controls, especially fire suppression systems is a key topic here. Fire suppression systems is a key topic in physical and environmental controls. Then you should be able to audit logical access control, something like mandatory access control. All right, you should be able to have that knowledge. All right, things like multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, biometrics. All right, so all these are important requirements to pass Domain 5. The network and endpoint security. So that is also very important. So land security, man security, WAN security, security to manage endpoints. So endpoints are also called nodes. They are individual gadgets you will see in a local in a network. So the servers, the personal assistant, personal digital assistants, the mobile devices, the laptops, and the tablets, and so on, the routers, the switches. Those are what we call endpoints. So while we are having security for the network, we should have security for those endpoints also. Then, of course, domain 5, you know, you need to know the OSI model. All right, open system interconnection, which is basically for interoperability of systems, all right, on the network. So the 7 layers of the OSI, you need to have very sound knowledge of it. Application layer, all right, leading to presentation layer, leading to session layer, leading to transport layer, leading to network layer, leading to leading to the data link layer, leading to finally leading to the physical layer. All right. So those 7 layers, and you know the protocols that operate at each layer and the essence of each layer. All right. A very good domain 5 candidate should know that, should know what is happening on the OSI layer. All right. So for example, now firewall, right? The lowest level firewall, you know, operates at layer 3. All right, that is the packet filtering router. So knowledge of the OSI model will help you to understand encryption, will help you to understand firewall, all right, will help you to understand protocols in general, all right. So this is very key to passing the exam, all right. The firewalls as a topic, all right, different type of firewall implementation. You should have that knowledge. Then encryption, all right. Encryption is a very wonderful topic that is very relevant for CISA domain 5. So different type of encryption, you know, symmetric key encryption, all right, asymmetric key encryption, all right, then the hash function algorithm, all right, the different, you know, the essentials of each of them, all right, and the difference, you know, among them, all right, and what they use, the pros and cons of each of them. For example, symmetric key encryption or private key cryptography is very fast, all right, but it is not secure because you have to move, you have to transfer the key. This the key that is used to encrypt, the same key that is used to decrypt. Asymmetric, all right, is slow compared to symmetric, all right, but it's more secure. All right, it's more secure. Hash function algorithm is irreversible. All right, it's universal. So that's how they use it for password management and so on. So you need to have all this knowledge about encryption. Then, of course, lastly, in domain 5, common computer attacks. So the different attacks, passive attacks and their examples, active attacks and their examples. All right. Then, of course, some knowledge of penetration testing and what we use it for in securing our organizations. So these are essentials, all right, which I believe that somebody that is writing the CISA examination should have knowledge of. So if you are able to consider uh, uh, everything I've mentioned in this video, all right, and you apply it in preparation, I believe you are good to go. So thank you. Once again, my name is Akinwale Akindiya. So if you have not subscribed to this channel, please try to do so to get more videos from me. Thank you.